Sorry, but he's just gonna be popping up some eyes for a little while. So is Ryuk and Mizuki. And everybody can see the whole thing. This is what it looks like. I can't even get the whole thing on. I got it for Christmas. I was super happy. So. Hello my lovelies! Welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jamie. We had such a successful... I can't speak today. I can never speak. What am I talking about? I had such a successful month this month. It is almost scary. I thought I said that in December. I thought I said that in November. But then again, I didn't read almost 12 books in December. I read almost 12 books this month. That's scary. I touched on 12. I will admit I touched on 12. I didn't finish 12, if that makes sense. And I'm about to explain all that, and we're going to go into that. All right, so we are going through a little bit of statistics for this month. Overall, between all the books. So for pages, we read 3,528 pages in a month. I let that sit for a while when I found out about that. Yeah. Next, we move on to the average star rating. I settled for like a 4.22, which, considering how fluctuated I had a really good month. I had a lot of 5 stars. I was very happy with more than half of everything that I read. I only had 2 that were eh, and 1 that just wasn't the right timing, and I need to read the other stuff first before I get into that. That's it. Everything else I liked reasonably well, and I enjoyed. So it was a very successful and very fun month. I really enjoyed this month, and I have a feeling next month is going to be a lot more interesting. So if you guys want to wait up for that video, we got something planned. Read a lot of dark and gloomy, I'll admit. A lot of emotional. A lot of emotional. A little too much emotion this month. Way too much emotion. Yeah. I had a really successful month. And without further ado, we are going to get into our January reviews for this month. So I started off really, really strong. The beginning of January, I knew there was a book coming out on the 1st. One that I've been looking forward to, that I got to read on my Kindle, was The Conjurer's Wife by Sarah Penner. I gave this one a 4-star. I did not think I was going to give it that because it was a short story. I figured like it would be left with, wishing it was longer, wishing that more was attached to it to get more context. But actually, it was a good background to what's going to be coming in April, because her new book, The Amalfi Curse, that comes out in April, this was kind of like a good introduction to what the folklore and the historical aspect of it is going to be. And I don't know if this character is going to be in the book or not. So it was just good introduction to what she's going to be making in April. And I thought it was really, really good. So I gave it a 4. It was a good short story. You guys can find it on Kindle Unlimited. It was very easy. I really enjoyed it, and I read it in 30 minutes. So the next one that we have on our list is one that I borrowed from one of my friends. She had just finished the first book. She was on the second one when she was loaning this to me. She gave me Legends and Lattes by Travis Baltrey. I did not think I was going to like it because I thought it was going to be a lot of action-y, back and forth stuff, dealing with the coffee shop, and we wouldn't really set foot in there whatsoever. It was not at all what I thought it was going to be. Overall, I gave this a 5 for many, many reasons. 1, Tandy was my favorite. That is all I gotta say about the characters. Tandy was my favorite. I loved the non-action-y part of this book. And a lot of people would disagree with me. A lot of people don't like that there's not a lot of action in here, but I think that is what makes it different, and it's actually nice. It was a very cozy, I smelled all the bakery stuff. I was smelling the coffee as I was reading it. It was such a cozy winter-ish read. Granted, this takes place in the summertime, so I wouldn't call it a winter read. But when I was reading it in the wintertime, those such warm feelings that I got from reading this book made me love it even more. And I fell in love with this. I fell in love with the characters. So she did tell me about the second book, and I decided that I'm not going to read the second one, only for the fact of I love the first one so much. I want to live solely in that world. I don't want to go back and forth between timelines. And that's what the second one is about, is actually doing a backflash. Granted, she did tell me the epilogue and the ending of the second one, and I got really, really excited. I am curious to see, because I did get word that there is a third one coming out. I do not remember the name of it. I'll put it up here once I get around to editing. But I want to find out what this one's about and see if it takes off from the coffee shop or if it's another prequel of a prequel. So, we'll see. I fell such in love with this book because it was so cozy. It was non-action-y. For those of you who are looking for action, don't read this because you're barely going to get anything. There is a plotline. I'm going to say there is a plotline to this. It's just not as strong as some books that we're used to, if that makes sense. So this story is about Viv. She is basically an orc who was always battling, always going on adventures and everything, and then she just finally wanted to retire. She wanted to go and open up a coffee shop that she discovered in the Gnomish lands, and it's only over there. No one else has ever heard of coffee before. So she's like, well, why don't I bring it outside of the gnome territories and bring it to everybody else? She starts up her coffee shop. There's a little bit of a plot line to this, not much of one. It's more like a leveling up story. We get the place situated and then we go from there. So it is very satisfying to watch it progress as much as it does. And not only that, but we get new characters coming in. And like I said, I love Tandy. She was my favorite by everybody else. I just love the atmosphere of this book. So that is why I gave it a 5, and I will probably read this again because I liked it so much. And I don't reread. So that says something. Moving on, and I am going to make a note of this. When I said that I started 12, I didn't finish. This is one of them that I started but didn't get to finish. The Sense and Sensibility that I have by Jane Austen, I forgot that Jane Austen takes me a while to read. And not because I don't like it and because I don't want to pick it up. That's not the problem. The problem is that I have to be in the right mindset in order to read her books because they do require a little bit of brain power. It's not as bad as like Charles Dickens or, for some people, William Shakespeare. I actually read him very easily. But I'm only on page 50 and I've picked this up twice. So it's just going to take me a while to read this. And I forgot that when I picked it up. So considering I did start it, I did get enough into it to know what it's about. We had a male figurehead in the family pass away. He was trying to figure out what to do with the rest of his family, how to split up the money and everything else. And eventually the wife and his daughters, they end up moving to a smaller house that's more suitable for them so that they can live peacefully without having to worry about money too much. And we just reached a point where one of the daughters meets someone very, very nice, which we all know how that goes in her books. That's about as far as I've gotten. So not very far, but enough to know at least what's going on and the fact that I retained it. That is one I did not finish, but will eventually get to. The next one that I have, it's an American Girl-based story off of Molly. This girl is a part of the era where World War II, I believe, is going on, and they're doing all the, they usually do things in the books with Molly about, helping support the troops and, all the food stamps and the rationing, everything like that. That's mostly what this book is about. That's what most of her books are about because that's her time period. She's living in that era. Yeah, Emily is actually not her sister. She's a girl staying with them until her family gets better. So she's kind of like a foreign exchange student staying with the family. It's kind of like that. Very short. I actually gave this a 3.75. Here's why. Molly has never been my favorite because I don't like her attitude. I don't like how she treats her friends. I don't like how she treats Emily. It's very hard to overlook that and get to the point of the story. The other reason why I gave it such a low star, that was 1 star. The other star came off because it was kind of boring. Some of the other ones haven't been boring. You know, the Samantha one that I read earlier last year, it wasn't boring. It was actually very interesting, and I didn't know who did it. This one, I guessed immediately, and I was right. So it wasn't much of a story. It wasn't much of a mystery. It was kind of not that big. It was big to them because of the times. Stealing sugar back then is very, like, not okay because it's rationing everybody else's stuff out. That's not fair. I just did not like this one. I won't be holding on to it. I did read it. I did try it, but not a favorite that I'm willing to hold on to for future purposes. So, the next one that I read, and probably one of the goriest ones that I read this month, was Orleans by Sherry L. Smith. You guys know from my previous videos that I have been looking for this book forever, and I finally found it. I also told you guys that I was very, very scared that it wasn't going to be worth it, that I was going to end up hating it, that it was a waste of my time. I am so happy this was not a waste of my time. So not a waste of my time. On the gory level, about the same as, it's in between. It's in between the Fifth Wave trilogy, for those of you who read that, and the Chemical Garden trilogy, the dystopian I told you guys about, the world where men die at 25 and women die at 20. I think this was right in between there. It was a whole lot more than I originally thought. Orleans wasn't just about a dystopian where hurricanes devastated the whole Gulf section from Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas. Like, that whole section got devastated by hurricanes. On the last one, though, and what started the whole dystopia in this wasn't the hurricanes. You know, you can fix hurricane damage slowly over time. The part that damaged this world, apparently, was that there was a blood bacteria, like a blood-feeding bacteria, that got into the water that started dispersing amongst everyone. So everyone eventually had a blood disease. And it feasts off of different blood types specifically. It's not so much with O. It doesn't like O. It actually harbors off of it for a little while. If you get it because of exposure, you get it. But AB, A's, and B's, they have to constantly have blood transfusions because it is constantly draining them of their blood, and people are becoming anemic, and they're having to go through fever and everything else dealing with that. When you have a blood disease, it is, I only chuckled because how horrific this world is and how worse I completely thought it was definitely baffled me. I gave this a 5-star because I was so immersed in the world. This takes place in, like, our time period. The Declaration of Separation from Florida through Texas from the U.S. happened in 2025. And then this happens in 56 or 53. This story particularly is dealing with Finn, and we also have another POV perspective. It's from Daniel. So Finn, she was a part of a group of the O positives, I believe. I could be wrong. It's either O positive or O negative. Either way, those are the most sought after clans in all of Louisiana and everywhere else because they're universal donor. Everyone is wanting their blood because, you can't just, They get attacked. Her chief, so to speak, and her friend, she was actually pregnant and she had the baby literally while they were getting raided. And very horrific night. She ends up dying, giving birth to the baby, and Fen is stuck with this little itty bitty baby that she doesn't want. She doesn't want to take care of it. When babies are born in this world, they don't have the Delta fever yet. They aren't infected yet. So there is a chance that the baby can live fine if it's in an environment that is away from all of it. So she wants to get this baby over the wall that they made, all over that whole section, trying to keep everybody in and keeping the rest of the U.S. out. Daniel, which is the other perspective in this, he is actually a scientist trying to cure Delta fever, and he decides that he wants to go over the wall to try and find a cure for this. He doesn't have very good samples where he is, so he decides to go over the wall and start doing a little more investigating. So that is where the story leads from there. I must say, because of the whole disease thing, I did not know about it. It didn't really explain it that well in the synopsis. It just mostly talked about the hurricanes. That made it a whole lot more gory, a whole lot more horrific, and about as bad as the Chemical Garden trilogy. Not as bad as Fifth Wave as far as the killing goes, but definitely a horrific dystopian story. But 100% one of my favorites because of how well it was done. I loved her writing. Absolutely freaking love this book. And I am so happy that it was worth my time and effort to get this on my shelves. I am so happy with this. The next one that I read for this month turned out to be my only hard DNF. I will put it that way. My hard DNF where I will not pick it up again. It was The Girl AA. Abigail Dean, I may try reading again, like other books, because I know she has more coming out this year. This is her main one, but she is coming out with another one soon. This one is about a girl and her siblings. Her and her sister, particularly, had a very horrific childhood, dealing with their parents, dealing with their siblings, and then an event happened to where they finally were able to get free. Her mother has been in prison and she recently died, and that is what all the siblings are having to deal with. They're having to deal with the house that they grew up in, that everything happened in, and where to go from there. This book, if I'm going to be honest, was very boring. I feel like this book would have been a whole lot better if we would have learned what had happened to the girls and the family if we had a little more build-up in a different way. So I don't mind having childhood flashbacks, but it needs to be in order, and it needs to be from start to finish through the book. Not hopping back and forth, hopping back and forth, hopping back and forth. I didn't like that at all. I think that this could have been done way differently, and I think that the conclusion to what happened to the girls and what they were going through and how they were able to get their parents away from them, I feel like that could have been stuck toward the end of the book or just farther into it instead of having be within the first 50 pages. I only got to page 55. So I thought it was really boring. I will not be keeping this. But I am not going to sway you guys from doing it. It doesn't really have really great reviews off of it. But I gave it a 2.5. So. However, I did find out that they did create a movie off of this book. I'm pretty sure it's just called Girl. I'm gonna look into that. I'm gonna look into that a little bit more. The next one I read off of my Kindle, but I'm gonna put it up here. It was Twisted Love by Anna Wong. Oh my god. Oh my god. I don't know where to start. For everybody who didn't like the first book, but said the rest of the series was the best. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I positively, absolutely loved Twisted Love. Between Alex and Ava and their banter and going from a hate, like actual hate relationship that wasn't like an insta love, it wasn't an insta love, and that's one of the things that I did like about it. I loved the rest of the characters. Definitely want to read about Josh. I am super excited to read the second one, which I believe Twisted Hate, which is about Bridget and Ray's, right? Something. I can't remember. It's been a minute. I've read way more books this month than I planned on it, so my names are frazzled. But it is about Ava. Her brother Josh is going away to the Cayman Islands, I believe, to go do something over there to go help with devastation and medical situations. He wants Alex to watch his house while he's gone and keep an eye on his sister and make sure she doesn't get into trouble, which is a reasonable request. Have Alex actually been a decent human being? He's such a grump. Such a grump. And I kind of loved it. I loved the character development that happened in this so much. I love the backstories. I love also how there was a lot more plot to this than I originally anticipated. Rather than just the romance, there was also kind of like a suspense mystery aspect of this, of what's going to happen. I also did want to add that for the Twisted Love series, they are actually doing an adaptation on Netflix for this series. I want to finish the rest of the books before I dig into this, because they are working on it right now. It has been announced that they are going to be doing it. Everybody's excited. For those of you who hadn't heard it, this is your way of hearing about it now. I'll be looking forward to that after I read the rest of them, because I'm not going to touch it until I do. Another thing I will mention about this book is that is some of the best spice I have ever read. My face was red the whole time I was reading. I'm blushing now, just thinking about it. But man, it was probably one of the better ones I have read. And for those who like, I'd say for those who liked Phantasma, is gonna like this. So I had no words for this originally when I first finished it. I'm like, I don't even know what to think of this. All I know is I want to read the second one. So I probably without a doubt will read Twisted Hate next on my February TBR. I 100% want to read it. I want to finish these this year without fail. Like, there is no excuse. I have them on my tablet. I can access them whenever I want. I want to read them. It hooked me so bad. And now I kind of was hoping I wouldn't like it, because this opens up not only the Twisted Love series. This doesn't open up the Twisted series. This also opens up everything else Anna Wong has written. Because now I'm curious to see what the other series is about that she's made. And I know she's got The King of Sin, something like that, coming out this year. I don't know when. I do know she has a book coming out this year. I don't remember what it is. I'll put it up here if I remember. But this just opened up a whole nother door of books that I have to read. And I actually could not be happier about it. I like the fact that I found a romance series that I like. And that doesn't happen very often. I haven't liked a lot of the things that are popular that get a lot of hype. I figure out that it's actually just overhyped. I'm happy that this one is hyped up for a reason. So I really did enjoy this. It was a good step out of my comfort zone to read something from Anna Wong. I was very scared to read this, but I turned into one of probably the happiest people I can be after reading it. So I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Hey guys, I did forget to mention I'm in the middle of editing my video, and I completely forgot to mention this when I did this. So, Twisted Love was also a part of a book challenge, kind of like what I'm doing for this year. I got the idea. It's from Sarah's Nightstand. She's actually one of my favorite YouTubers. I love watching her stuff. Sarah's in Sarah's Nightstand, and then Jen over in Bookish Blonde, they had something going on last year where it was a book challenge for Go With The Flow. It was basically you pick one book with one prompt, and then that book leads you into what you pick for the following month. I'm going to include it up here real quick. So, this book that I chose was for whichever book cover was my absolute favorite color, and it happened to be Twisted Love. Twisted Love's cover is my favorite color. Aqua is my favorite color, so I decided to go with this book for my Go With The Flow pick, and I just needed to mention that before I continued editing this video. So, anyway, alright, now that I mentioned that, and I made that very clear, this is something that I am doing. If you guys want to join in, you guys can take a screenshot, do whatever you want to do. That's what I did in my video. I really enjoy doing this. It's very, very easy to do. It's easy to remember, obviously, unless I try to make a video about it. So, we're going to ignore that, and we're going to continue on with the rest of the video. Moving on to our next one. I did a video for you guys last week where I did a 24-hour readathon fail. Yes, fail. I did get very, very far, though. I got in 12 hours into my reading. I did get very far into the readathon. I got 12 hours, which to me is an achievement. I got a lot further than I originally thought I was going to because I started at night. So, I don't know how y'all do it. I think it's rigged. I think that you guys take breaks longer than an hour or a few minutes, which technically to me is how a challenge is supposed to be done. You only get like a few minutes to do certain things and then you go right back to it. It is almost impossible to read 24 hours straight. So that is my review about that challenge. It is stupid challenge and I will never do it again. End of discussion. But I did get to read a few things while I was doing the challenge. I started reading the Harry Potter Order of the Phoenix. I think 2 months? No. I started reading it in December. I read 200 pages, and I decided that for every month this year, I am going to read 200 pages of every Harry Potter book that I have left, which is just Order of the Phoenix, Half-Blood Prince, and The Deathly Hallows. That's it. That's it. I only got 3 of the biggest books to read this year. But I did get pretty far. I've almost gotten halfway through of Order of the Phoenix. We got from first getting to Hogwarts all the way up to them creating the order at the school. That is all I'm going to say. That is all you need to know if you haven't read the books. For those of you who have read the books, you guys know what I'm talking about. So I got that far into reading that. I love them so much. It's a good palate cleanser, I've learned, halfway through the month. And I think if I keep on with that, I will continue having good reading months like I did this one. This was only halfway through the month. I was left with half of the rest of it. So the next one that I read, also during the readathon, I read all of What Happens in Paradise by Ellen Hildebrand. This one, Winter in Paradise is the first one for Ellen Hildebrand's trilogy that she has. It is a romance mystery type of series. We have Irene, Baker, and Cash. So we have them. Baker and Cash are Irene's sons. This story starts off Winter in Paradise with Irene finding out that her husband went down in a helicopter crash in the middle of the Cayman Islands, where he definitely wasn't supposed to be near Christmas time, and he actually died with a woman in the helicopter that apparently he had a whole second life with. So, Irene gets to go investigate. She takes her sons with her because they're just as curious. They're just as freaked out about this whole thing as she is. They end up starting stuff here that takes place mostly in the second book too. We get into a lot of romance in this one. A lot more talking about feelings and how they feel about trying new relationships, and a lot also about Rose, the other woman's perspective, mostly in this book as well. I think this one was just a filler one before we get to the third one, which is Troubles in Paradise, where I think she is going to try and wrap everything else up. So this was Rose's backstory, everyone talking about their feelings, how they feel about, being in the islands. It is a good one. I'm not going to say it was boring, because it's not boring. It's far from boring. To me, it's far from boring. But for those who like a really deep enthralling, like thriller or mystery or romance, it's not. It's a toned down mystery with romance in it, and it's a whole bunch of other things involved with this, a lot more, and it's just hard to explain. It really is. But I ended up giving this a 4-star. It is definitely less actiony than the first one because I think the suspense went down a little bit just because we know what happened. Yeah, so this was more of a filler one, but I am looking forward to reading the Troubles in Paradise, which is the last one in the trilogy. So, and the last one that I tried reading for the readathon, I actually soft DNF. I'm not going to say it was a hard DNF because I started reading it and then I put it down after a couple of pages. I wasn't really getting it. It was Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I looked back at this later, realizing that a lot of people said that you should read Shadow of Bone first to understand the world a little bit better before you read Six of Crows. I did not know that. So I guess I will be on the hunt for Shadow and Bone first. I just soft DNF'd it for now. I will probably pick this back up again because it did seem interesting. My brain was just not comprehending it though and trying to figure out what kind of world are we in. I kind of was just thrown into it and I wasn't understanding it. And I think it may have also had to deal with it was 4 o'clock in the morning when I had stayed up pretty much the whole day. I don't know if that was also part of it, but it's just soft DNF for now. It was a library book, so I didn't have it with me anymore. I do want to add this. After doing the Shadow of Bone adaptation they did off of Netflix, I believe, they did talk about doing the Six of Crows adaptation. It hasn't been confirmed yet because I think they're debating whether or not they want to do it or not, or if she's going to let them. It has something to do with a hold on it until they decide they want to or they don't want to. But there is no word of it being made right now. Shadow of Bone, I think they're just waiting to see how well it does, how many people liked it, if they even want to continue with it. It's a whole thing. So, we'll see. We shall see. That was the whole readathon that I did. Like I said, didn't enjoy it. But I did get a lot of reading done, so I was very happy about that. The next one that I read, I just needed a good classic after reading all the fantasy and mystery and all the romance crap. I needed something like a palate cleanser. So I picked up one I've been wanting to read for a long time, which was, you guys can't see it, but there we go. It's The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. My grandmother gave this to my mother, so this to me has sentimental reasons. However, I will not be picking it up again. I tried reading it, and she gets a 3. She gets a 3 because he is a cross between Charles Dickens and Jane Austen. Just barely able to understand what is going on, but still sometimes wondering if I even know what is going on. So, I got some of the story only because of the pictures that were in here. Like, literally only because of the pictures. Otherwise, I wouldn't have any idea what is going on. So yeah, I didn't particularly like the writing. It kind of just was what it was. I read it. That's where we sit right now, is I read it. I will say though, after reading this, I should have read Hester by Lori Albanese. I believe is how you pronounce her last name. I should have read that after this one to just compare. But already I'm thinking of Hester more than I'm thinking about Nathaniel Hawthorne's version. Just because I can understand it more. You can understand more of the story. It just wasn't entertaining to me. So I tried it. But that's it. I'm going to hold on to the book because my mother will kill me if I get rid of it. But I don't know if I will hold on to it. I'll probably give it back to her if she wants it back. It's not a favorite. And I'm only going to hold on to the ones that are favorites. If she wants me to hold on to it because it's a family heirloom, then I shall. With respect. But he's not a favorite. He's not a favorite out there. No. Alright, so the next one, because I just read a whole bunch of stuff I didn't read, I needed something easy to where I knew I was going to understand it. So, we went to Hatchet by Gary Paulson. I have never read this. I didn't get the chance to read it in high school. Didn't get the chance to read it in middle school. I finally got to read it. It is a very good story. So, this one in particular is about a 13-year-old Brian. He is traveling from his mother's to his father's up on the Canadian border to spend his summer vacation. So, during his flight over there, he actually witnesses his pilot, who he was next to, literally witness him having a heart attack. And he does die, unfortunately, from this. So the plane goes down. He is stuck in the wilderness trying to fend for himself. And that is what the story is about. I love how it's not, everything good happens with him. I love how we get mistakes in this where he just has to learn. In the wilderness, you are on your own. You start with nothing, so you got to make something out of nothing. I really did enjoy this. I gave this a 4.75, I believe. I wished it was longer. I love the mistakes, though. I love the motivation in here and the inspiration that came with this. I did like the fact that there were mistakes in here, that not everything was sunshine and roses all over the place. It was a good story. It was a really good one. Yeah, but for those of you who have not read it, it's a good, quick, easy read. I read it in a day. You guys can read it in a day. It's like, little over 180? It's a little 180 page book. So it's very, very simple. The last full read that I read for the month of January is probably one of the emotional books I have not only ever read, but have definitely read in a long time. I was dealing with a lot of emotional stress and a lot of emotional ups and downs during this week, and this did not help at all, and it made it completely worse. But we read 5 Feet Apart. So we got Rachel Lippincott, Mickey Daughtry, and Tobias Akanis, I believe is how you pronounce all their names. For those who have not read this book, if you are not ready to cry, and if you are not ready to emotionally be destroyed, because I was emotionally destroyed. And when I mean emotionally destroyed, I mean emotionally destroyed. I walked in to Nick in the bedroom, and I was just holding the book, and I looked at him. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm destroyed." And I walked away, and he started laughing at me because he knew. He knew. It's one of those books. And then I decided torture wasn't enough with this book. Let's watch the movie too. I thought I cried enough in the book. I'm gonna cry thinking about it. No, we're not doing this right now. We're not doing this right now. We're not gonna think about this. No. Think about the book. Okay. No, I don't want to think about the book. She's a 5. definitely 5. I thought it was going to be overdramatic. I thought it was going to be young adult. I love that there wasn't overdrama in here. I love that this young adult, because it is a young adult, we're dealing with 18 and I think another 18. I could be wrong. I don't remember how old she is. I know she's right in that range too, but I know that he's 18. The story behind this book is that we are dealing with two people who have cystic fibrosis. For those of you who don't know what that is, long story short, it's where your lungs become full of mucus and fluid, and it starts literally affecting how well your lungs function. So she has the basic form where she could, continue doing maintenance, is what pretty much I call it, is maintenance, going to the hospital, flushing out your lungs enough for it to get well enough to continue on for a little bit longer. And get to the point where you can get a lung transplant to get you to live a little bit longer, because it is something genetic, it's something you're born with. So she's dealing with that. He has that, but up it a notch. He has a bacteria that got into his cystic fibrosis that actually prevents him from getting a transplant, because there would be no point. It literally would be a waste. So he's stuck with a disease that can't be cured. She's stuck with something that they literally could kill each other if they get near each other, which hence is the label 5 feet apart, because that is how far they have to remain apart to not get infected by each other. So he can do a lot more damage to her, and that's mostly what the story is about. It's a hate to love relationship. I liked the story. I liked the medical research that went into this. I learned a lot from this. I loved the other characters in this. I loved the story. I did. I cried for a reason, and I'm going to tell you why. For those of you who have read the book, you guys are going to know what I'm talking about. The light scene. I am not going to cry. Oh my god. I'm crying already. No. Okay. Nope. Okay, we're not going to talk about that anymore. I mentioned it. I mentioned why I cried. Now you guys understand. So now I can move on. Okay, so that is why I love this book. She's the 5-star. I am so glad I read it. She's going to stay on my shelf probably for the rest of my life. If I want a good cry, I can definitely rely on it. Or I can just watch the movie. I don't know. The movie would be worse. Bringing things to life hurts me more. Anyway, we're going to move on. I'm done talking about that book that made me cry multiple times during the book, and then multiple times during the movie. So I'm done. Anyway, so the last one that I decided that I was going to read, I had just reached a standstill. I'm like, I don't know what I want to read. And you know what? I looked over to my library books and I figured out which one do I have to return first that they're going to want back first. Well, that one was a very easy answer, and personally, I was looking forward to picking this up anyway. I started A Court of Mist and Fury. We are about 150 pages from the end. I have not finished this yet, but I have read, obviously, enough to tell you that I am really enjoying this series. I did not really like the first book. I gave it a 4 because of the beginning. This book, I know I am already going to give it probably a 4.75 for this, a solid one, because it is a lot more than the romance. We almost have had no romance in here. It's all banter between her and Ryzan. I will mention, because I know that is going to be everyone's question, what do I think of Ryzan now? I definitely like him a lot better than Tamlin, who I want to murder. So that answers that question. I love how there is a lot more action going on in this one versus a lot of like a Beauty and the Beast feel to it. Definitely not anymore. It's all action. It's all, tactics, politics. Everything else is not really romance. It's more just banter between her and Rysand and a couple of the other characters. I love it. I do. I really do. So I will be happy to say that I will continue the rest of the series. As thick as these books are, I've been flying through this, believe it or not. I've gotten this far in 2 days. And that's with telling myself to read 200 pages a day. So we're about like 420 right now, I believe. I'm really enjoying it. I'm really happy with this book. And I will probably have it finished before I do my February TBR for you guys. I just wanted to give a real quick review about it before I finish it, because I'm not going to give a specific review about this when I'm done with it. So I figured I'd just include it in here. That is all the books. So we have all the books I read in January, all reviewed, all done. And it's heavy. Oh my lord. Oh, that is so heavy. You know how much it took for me to hold it up during that picture for the thumbnail? I was holding my breath. So that is all I have for you guys today. I will be doing my TBR video. I should have it posted by Saturday in case you guys want to look at that and see what we're going to be reading for the month of February. It's going to be interesting because I have something planned. I'm really looking forward to it. For those of you who have not already, please like and subscribe. That'll help me give you guys more videos every week. Love you, reads, and trinketies. And I'm going to go read some more. Bye!